I'm Alan Edworthy. Welcome to the 1986 National Sprint Car title. The ultimate goal of any Australian sprint car driver is this, the National Championship. And this meeting marks the 24th running of such an event. With me now is leading Speedway editor Dennis Newland.
Thanks, Alan. This year every major state is represented in the title, and Sprint Car Control Council officials anticipate over 60 nominations to contest the event at the Premier Speedway Warrnambool.
And heading that list of nominations is the defending champion out of Bunbury in Western Australia, Ron Cricky. Tonight he puts his title on the line, not before a home crowd, but before a national crowd right here in Victoria.
And going into the title, controversy surrounding the inclusion of Australia's 6 times national sprint car champion from Sydney, namely Gary Rush.
And as in any title tilt, this is where the action begins, right here in the workshop. Gone are the water pipe and winter tread wonders of yesteryear. 20 years of development have led to this. And in this case, it's an American-built Gambler Chassis Company car, owned and driven by former national champion Bob Tunks of Sydney. The car is powered by a 366 Chev-based engine, and it's fed on methanol fuel through the fuel injection system. Power is then transferred through a direct drive running underneath me here to a quick change diff at the rear of the race car. And it's all coupled together with a purpose-built chromoly chassis and roll cage combination. And to tell us some more, here's Dennis.
All that awesome sprint car power is transmitted to the racetrack via these low-profile, soft compound, super-wide race tyres. And the aerofoil wing, while it's great for the sponsor, it also has a very definite purpose in sprint car racing. A properly adjusted wing can mean a second a lap in fast times around the racetrack. And the front wing also too serves its purpose in sprint car racing. With the 2 wings properly set, sprint cars can run on a slick track, and it also prevents excessive tyre wear. So that's how sprint car racing operates. That is in the workshop technology, but let's now go to the racetrack and heat 1 of the 1986 Australian Sprint Car Championship. There's your field for the 1986 Australian Sprint Car Championship from the Premier Speedway in Warrnambool, Victoria. And on the pole, Gary Rush, and sharing the outside of the front row, Bill Barrows. And from the back, position 16, Max Dumsney, and the defending champion, Ron Cricky from 17.
Well, Ron Cricky drawing number 17. My word, he has his work cut out with Gary Rush off pole position. And 2 drivers, the race means so much to them at opposite ends of the field, getting set to take the start now. Out comes the green.
And Gary Rush goes to an immediate lead in the 1986 Australian Sprint Car Championship down the back straightaway on the first occasion. Gary Rush leading. In second spot is Bob Tunks as the field streams through turn number 3, and there's trouble on the main straightaway. Bill Barrows and Max Boland up and over and an end for end. Bad luck for Max Boland, and Bill Barrows struck trouble coming down the main straightaway, and Max Boland had nowhere to go into the stranded race car, and as you saw vividly there, Enfer entered the race car. Watching a replay now of the incident.
That's a very, very high one, Dennis, and as we can see, Lee Foster also with nowhere to go, crashes into the car before it even came back to terra firma. A very nasty one, but both drivers, it would seem, are okay. Here it is again.
And Max Boland coming from position 7 or 8, a middle order starting position for Max Boland. And Alan, what a way to go out of the 1986 Australian Sprint Car Championship. Bad luck for Max Boland. Just about set to go now in the complete rerun for the 1986 Australian Sprint Car Championship. Gary Rush off the pole and Bob Tunks in second spot, and Rush again goes to an immediate lead.
Gary Rush, as you say, off pole position, kicking away. Bob Tunks, one of the form drivers in the heats also, starting well toward the front of the pack. Tucks in behind Rush as the wall of wings and wheels fights its way around the Premier Circuit here at Warrnambool in Victoria for this, the 24th running of the Australian Sprint Car Championship 1986 style.
And there's Rush going down into the back straightaway, and certainly already opening up a very, very big lead. And what
what may well be, although it's still a long, long way to go, but what may well be a winning lead. Bob Tunks in second position at this stage. Looks like John Walsh in third and Ian Lewis in fourth as the remainder of the field streams through. And John Walsh there doing a fine job already in third position. One man on screen is Bob Kelly in the Queensland 2 car. And also further back there is the defending national sprint car champion Ron Cricky.
John Walsh and Ian Lewis have been the two surprise packets of this national championship round, because Ian Lewis coming out of the world of speed car racing to run his first ever Australian championship in the sprint car division, in fact his first season as a sprint car driver, and John Walsh, who truly is the budget racer of Sydney racing, has been battling several seasons of lack of cubic dollars, but tonight looks to be go or break for young John Walsh, and he's in there pushing hard. Bob Tunks on screen now, a former national title holder, running well in the heats, and now, as we said earlier, qualifying well up in the field to chase Gary Rush. Rush still the race leader, the 6 times Australian champion, leaving absolutely nothing to chance, jumping out from pole position, and as you heard in the early part of our broadcast, Gary Rush running under extreme controversy in this 86 title.
And coming on to the main straightaway once again is Gary Rush on screen, and now coming up to lap the tail enders as Rush goes down the back straightaway there too, and now moving in through on the inside, looks like lapping there Bob Blacklaw as Rush comes down the main straightaway once again, and coming into the back straight, Max Dumpsney just up ahead of him.
Bob Blacklaw likewise only coming into this championship as first reserve, as Bob Kelly spins off onto the infield. It looks like the chances have gone out of the race for Bob Kelly, but in Queensland fashion he charges back into the pack. On camera now is the 54 car of Bob Tunks. Bob is well versed in all style of speedway sprint car racing, all style of speedways, has raced right around this great nation of ours, and tonight chasing Gary Rush for the 86 crown.
And now Gary Rush coming up to put a lap on George Tatnall. Around the outside of George Tatnall, and it looks like George will have to wait another year before he can create his own special piece of Australian sprint car history by becoming the only man to win both the national midget and national sprint car titles. George Tatnall well back in the field at this stage. One going through there blowing smoke is Lee Foster, as John Walsh now ranges up on the outside of Bob Tunks, switches to the inside, but Tunks still holding down that second position, and now Ian Lewis coming through on the inside of John Walsh.
Ian Lewis, there's that surprise package we told you about, well versed in midget racing, and tonight showing a clean set of wheels to many fancied reputations in this sprint car title, fighting his way through the field. Trying to get up and challenge Gary Rush, moves in to within striking distance now of Bob Tunks. John Walsh is the man right in the meat and the sandwich at the moment, still fighting his way through. So it's still anyone's race, not onto the halfway mark yet, and the race continuing on, and if it goes through at this stage, we could have a record time.
This is where the interest is, the battle between second, third and fourth. Bob Tunks still holding down second position as Lee Foster continues to blow blue smoke running down the back straight, and John Walsh and Ian Lewis in their own battle also. But there's Bob Tunks looking for a way through on the inside of Lee Foster. Meanwhile, Gary Rush continues to stream through these lap cars. Gary Rush in the number 25 Winfield Gambler coming onto the main straightaway now and puts a lap on, looks like Bob Aylesbury, yes, looking for a way through now on Bob Aylesbury, and also Rush putting a lap on Ron Cricky.
While George Tatnall has his problems further back, spare a thought for the two Queensland drivers, the father and son combination of Bob and John Kelly out of Brisbane. Bob Kelly, of course, has been racing sprint cars just as long as Gary Rush and George Tatnall, and for that point of view, Nipper Lacey also, all the veteran drivers. Bob Kelly's been there, raced against the best of them, and now has brought his son John Kelly into racing, but both drivers well out of luck tonight, but still battling on gamely in this 86 championship round.
Yes, Bob Tunks now looking to lap Darryl Downing from South Australia. Bob Tunks there moving up on Darryl Downing, going through on the inside, coming down the straightaway into turn number 1, and now it looks like Ian Lewis has got around John Walsh, and it's Ian Lewis now into third position, setting off after Bob Tunks. Ian Lewis there in the number 18 race car, driving for Hoare Brothers Earth, moving Ian Lewis in the number 18 OTR, relegating John Walsh now into fourth position as Rush continues on his merry and what may well be his winning way, and his 7th Australian Sprint Car Championship.
Yes, Dennis, the pattern is beginning to develop now well into the race. Rush the leader, the 1, 2 and 3 pattern emerging. Rush the leader, back then to Bob Tunks, the 2 New South Wales drivers at this stage running 1 and 2. But the fly in the ointment just could be the number 18 car moving up to challenge right through this event is Ian Lewis from out of Victoria. What a great drive it's been so far. Still a long way to travel, but Ian Lewis is the danger man in this title round.
Yes, this has been a magnificent championship series for Ian Lewis, and as you say, Alan, well versed in speed car racing and now showing his mettle in the rough and tough world of sprint car racing too. And Ian Lewis running there in third spot and closing that gap too on Bob Tunks. Ian Lewis, car number 18. However, certainly Johnny Walsh not giving up by any means. He's hounding the tail of the number 18 OTR driven by Ian Lewis, coming down the main straightaway once again. It's Ian Lewis in 18, and now Johnny Walsh coming through on the inside, goes grass cutting as they run onto the back straight. Ian Lewis skips clear a little bit and now moving up onto the tail of Bob Blacklaw. John Walsh on screen at the present time, lining up for turn number 1. Hot on pursuit of Ian Lewis. Ian Lewis in third. Gary Rush continues to lead now, coming up onto the tail of Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor running in around about 5th or 6th position at this time. Chris Taylor, as Rush now comes through low on Chris Taylor, coming into turn number 1, now moves high, and Chris Taylor from Geelong in the number 11 car being hounded by Gary Rush in the Winfield Team Gambler. Gary Rush driving car number 25. Now comes again on the inside of Chris Taylor. Taylor in the number 11 car. Rush goes high now, high, wide and around the outside of Chris Taylor as they run onto the straight. Taylor, however, holding that advantage. Rush coming again on the outside. Rush up high. Taylor still coming through on the inside, and Rush well clear at the moment now, also with Darryl Downing, and there's Ian Lewis in third position. Bob Blacklaw now up high, and John Walsh through on the inside.
Dennis, this is where the adrenaline is pumping, and this is where the drama begins to unfold for the race leaders as they wend their way through the down cars. Bob Blacklaw already a lap down on the race leader, Gary Rush, with the 18 car of Ian Lewis still in hot pursuit of Bob Tunks. Rush and Tunks running 1 and 2, and Ian Lewis still in third. No change further back to young Johnny Walsh, who just will not give up the chase. We've seen the tigerish effort of John Walsh earlier in the night with that broken front end, but kept the car going to finish up well in the heat. And here's Walsh again, right onto the tail, and again within striking distance of Ian Lewis. But what a drive from this Victorian driver, Ian Lewis, in this his first full season of sprint car racing, and in this 1986 national title, his first ever national title in sprint car racing, and up challenging the 2 main contenders for this event, Gary Rush, who started off pole position, and also Bob Tunks, who started well toward the front of the field.
1 lap remaining, looks like 1 lap remaining as Gary Rush sets off on his final lap to wrap up the 1986 Australian Sprint Car Championship, now coming through and on to the main straightaway, and Gary Rush takes the 1986 Australian Sprint Car Championship, National Championship win number 7 for Rush. Looks like Bob Tunks will take second, Ian Lewis third,